Hey guys, what's up? This is Rombic21, and this is going to be our first entry on the NCAA playbook for this year. I know that a lot of guys this year are struggling more maybe on offense than defense, and so some of these pass rush schemes and blitzes and things like that probably won't be as necessary as they were last year, so we will get to some offensive stuff later on. But I wanted to go ahead and show this because it was something that I was struggling with when I initially got the game, was in terms of getting pressure out of the 3-4 defense. There's a couple teams online that I kind of like to use as far as the talents they have. Alabama because of their strong defense, Cal because they're like one of the more balanced teams on the game, and then Notre Dame because they have a really explosive offense, and they all use 3-4 defenses. And so I came to kind of try to figure out how to get pressure out of the 3-4 defense. And I wanted to go ahead and show you the scheme. I'm going to show it here at OLB Dogs Fire, which is a man-to-man cover one blitzing scheme, but you can really do this out of any play that you want to. I mean, the heart rates that I'm going to show, you could do this out of a zone defense if you wanted to or whatever, and sort of manually create your own zone blitz or your own whatever other kind of blitz you wanted to, if you wanted to go that route. We're going to go this against a 5-man pass protection. The one thing about the splits, this won't really work as well if they do keep a halfback in to block. And a lot more people are doing that this year because of the pressure on the game, but this is at least something that you can throw in if you notice that your opponent is not really doing that, or an obvious passing situation, long yardage or something like that. So anyway, I just wanted to go ahead and show it to you real quick. Now when you're trying to get pressure on the quarterback, there's two real things that I think everybody needs to focus on. And number one is the angles of the way that your guys are blitzing, in particular the way that outside guys are blitzing, because they're the guys who are probably going to be getting the pressure on the quarterback coming around the edge. If you notice here, our outside linebackers, their blitz angles are angled inward, almost right at the offensive tackles. So as a result of that, they're not really going to run around the offensive tackles. They're almost going to run into the offensive tackle and then try to do some sort of pass rush move. Okay, the other thing that you always want to look at when you're trying to devise schemes or to look at whether or not a blitz is going to get pressure or not is to look at the basically your defensive line rushes and see which offensive lineman you're occupying essentially. Basically, all your defensive linemen are gonna, for the most part, unless you like have an overload or something like that, gonna have an offensive lineman that they are gonna basically be running into or that they're going to be engaging in post snap. If you look at this, basically the way that this is set up is that the defensive tackle is gonna basically go straight ahead and engage the center, and then the ends are gonna rush straight ahead, and the linebackers are gonna rush in. And a lot of times what that's going to result in is that the guards are going to slide out. They're going to end up blocking our defensive ends, and the tackles are going to slide out and block our outside linebackers. And then, of course, the center is going to block the defensive tackle. Let's go ahead and run this play once without any adjustments, just so you can kind of get a sense for what this particular play looks like without making any adjustments. Okay, so there you see that it's not very effective in terms of getting pressure. And the reason why it's not is because the offensive line has everybody accounted for. Everybody has got somebody that they are assigned to block. So let's go ahead and show a quick way that I found that you can sort of get some guys free. So there's actually two ways to do this. And they kind of vary a little bit in terms of their effectiveness, but I wanted to show you both of them. The first thing that you do for both plays is you want to re-blitz the outside linebackers. And that's actually really easy to do. You don't actually have to select the outside linebackers to do this. You just hit the R1 button on the PS3 or the right block button on the Xbox 360, and then you press the right analog stick left, and that reblitzes the left outside linebacker, or the linebacker on the left as you look at him. And then you press this R1 again, or right block again, and then you do the same thing, but you press the right stick to the right, and that's going to reblitz your right outside linebacker, or the outside linebacker to the right as you look at him. And as you look now we reblitz them, and they sort of rush straight ahead. They're rushing much more sort of straight up the field as opposed to rushing in towards the quarterback. Okay, so that's the first step that you want to do, because you want those guys to be rushing hard, fast around the corner. You don't want them to be trying to engage the offensive lineman. You want them to try to be running around the offensive lineman. Their advantage is their speed, not their power. Okay, the first setup that you can do to get a lineman free or to get somebody free is this. You can loop the line out and then re-blitz both of the defensive ends. And the reason we did that, let's look at the rush here. The reason we do that is because now our defensive tackle, he's, instead of rushing into the center, straight ahead into center, you see he's kind of looping out and looping into the guard. And by him looping into the guard, that's going to create a problem for those two linemen. The guard and the center are going to basically both end up, more times than not, either they're both going to end up paying attention to that guy, or one of them is going to get confused and not know who to block. and then you're going to have 5 men rushing, and only 4 offensive linemen are going to be engaged with blitzers. So let's go ahead and run it with this setup and see how that works, and then I'll show the other way you can set this up. Okay, now you see that time our linebacker came completely free. Our outside linebacker came completely free. And let's go ahead and look at the replay and see why that happened. Because the defensive tackle rushed out this time, that prevented the guard from being able to slide over and block our defensive tackle. Our defensive end, I'm sorry. So because the guard can't block the end, that means the tackle has to block the end, and because the tackle's blocking the defensive end, there's now nobody left to slide out and block our outside linebacker. So the whole key to this is you want to get that defensive tackle to rush out. That's why we looped the line, but then we ended up re-blitzing the defensive ends. And you might think, why are you going to why loop the line and then re-blitz the ends? That doesn't make sense. And the whole reason is we want to change the rush angle of that defensive tackle. We don't want to change the rush angle of the defensive ends. We want them to rush straight ahead. They're going to occupy the tackles. That's going to free up our outside linebackers to come around the edge. And you see on the other side, now we have a situation where even on the right side, where there's theoretically that guard is going to try to block the outside linebacker, he's got a very poor angle to do it, and our outside linebacker is going to have a running start, and he's going to create a lot more like a sense of pressure. The opponent is going to see that guy coming free, and that's going to cause him to have to move around or to notice it. And the other thing is, it totally shuts off the scramble to the outsides. You can't scramble to the outsides against this because there's nobody blocking him. So if you try to move out to one side or the other, you're just going to run right into either one of these outside linebackers. The other nice thing about it is you can't slide protect, because if you slide protect to the left to pick up the outside linebacker who came free here, then the guy on the right is going to end up probably coming in untouched, because that guard, instead of pivoting out to pick him up, his first step is going to be to the left. Basically, anytime you slide protect to one side, you make the other side more vulnerable. If there's a speed rush on the other side, you make that side more vulnerable. So let me go ahead and show you the other way that you can set this up. And this way is a little bit more effective in terms of the pressure, but the bad thing about it is you do kind of have to tip the play a little bit. So again, you want to re-blitz both outside linebackers, and then the way that you set this one up is you shift the line to the right, then you loop them out, and then you want to select the defensive tackle and the defensive end on the right side and re-blitz them. So this is what your rush angle looks like now. Basically, by shifting the line to the right here, you create like a 4-man line look. Basically, now your outside linebackers almost become like defensive ends. You sort of have like a 4-man look with an extra linebacker rotated down. This looks like maybe like a 4-3 under type formation. Let's go ahead and show this. And the other thing that I want to point out you always want to do every single time, anytime you're trying to get pressure on the quarterback, is you always want to pass commit. And that's for 3 reasons. Anytime it's an obvious passing situation, you always want to pass commit. 3 reasons. Number 1, it will improve your coverage. Your defensive backs will be more likely to get to wherever their coverage responsibilities are. That's going to make them better against the pass, generally speaking. Number 2, if the other person pass commits, does a play action by pass committing, or now I guess it's called defensive pass keys, which is a pre-snap adjustment that you make this year, that's going to cause your guys to not bite on the play action. That's pretty critical. And the last thing, and the most important thing, is even if you're not blitzing, you always want to pass commit. And the reason you do that is because if defensive linemen do happen to get engaged with offensive linemen, for some reason when you pass commit, it seems to heighten their abilities to pass rush. They're more likely to break free, they're more likely to get pressure. So that's something to always get in a habit of. Anytime you're expecting a pass commit is an important thing to be able to know how to do. Let's go ahead and run the play and look at the pressure that this generates. See, this time we got pressure off the other side. I've seen it come from both sides, though. And this is basically the same thing. It's just another way of running the edge blitz concept. These are both edge blitz concept blitzes. But you notice here basically what happened is that we have an overload here on this right side. And the center ends up, nobody's lined up over the center. That's why we shifted the line to the right. It's because we wanted our defensive tackle to line up over the guard, not over the center. It would be kind of nice if there would be some way that you could actually just move the defensive tackle manually, or have some kind of shift where the defensive tackle would move but the defensive ends wouldn't. But I don't think there's really a way to do that very effectively, so you kind of just have to shift the whole line. But as you see here, basically this linebacker on the right side comes completely free and is able to make the sack. So anyways, those are the 2 setups that I wanted to show you. They are kind of limited because if they do keep an extra man in to block, you're maybe not going to get pressure. But it is one really good way that you can start getting some pressure on the 3-4, and then that's something you can build off of to get other sorts of pressures. So we will try to get into some offensive stuff later, but this is the first video of this year of NCAA Football Playbook 10, and I hope you guys are successful.